Good morning, students. Today we are going to do the chapter Journey to the End of the Earth. This is by Tushani Doshi. Before you read, if you want to know more about the planet's past, present, and future, Antarctica is the place to go to. Bon voyage. What is the meaning of bon voyage? Bon voyage means a good journey. And she says here that if you want, in its fold, Antarctica hides lot of secrets about our past, about our present, and also about our future. Now, the writer describes her experience of visiting America on a Russian research vessel, Academic Solisky. On this large watercraft, they set out towards Antarctica, which is the coldest, driest, and the windiest continent in the world. They began their journey 13.09 degrees north of equator in Chennai. So she started her journey from Chennai, crossed so many time zones, crossed so many countries, and she reached Antarctica. Reaching Antarctica meant crossing 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies, and at least as many ecospheres. It took about 100 hours to travel. This travel was a combination of car, aeroplane, and ship. Her first emotion on facing Antarctica's vast wild landscape and the clear blue sky was relief, but she soon was wonderstruck. Now, it took almost 100 hours to travel from Chennai to Antarctica, and she used car, aeroplane, ship, bus, everything to travel. And why she has talked about this car, aeroplane, and ship? So that it will show us, it will tell us the long hours and the journey, the mileage of the journey, that how long, how far this place was. After 100 hours, when she stepped on this land, she was relieved about it, that after such a long time, she had got an opportunity to stand on the hard surface of the ground. But when she looks around herself, she sees everything white, covered with snow, and she is wonderstruck. She marveled at its vastness, seclusion, but most of all the fact that at one point of time, India and Antarctica were part of the same landmass. Now, when she stands on this Antarctica, on the land of Antarctica, she looks around herself. And what does she see? That she is wonderstruck. Why is she wonderstruck? Because the scene is marvelous. The vastness is marvelous. All around is just land and land, stretches of land, and seclusion. Seclusion means it is away from all kind of noise, humanity, disturbances, pollution. So it was a secluded place, and one side not polluted by anything. But most of all, the fact that one point of time, and she also marvels that this Antarctica and India once were a part of the same landmass. So this is something very overwhelming, because it took 100 hours for her to travel from India to Antarctica, but there was a time when India and Antarctica were the part of the same landmass. Now we come to the part of history. 650 million ago, Antarctica was part of an enormous tropical landmass called Gondwana, where humans didn't arrive on the face of the earth. And where humans did not arrive on the face of earth, they were still not there. No one knew anything about the human beings. And then the land was a huge landmass called Gondwana, and all the continents together. The climate had been much warmer, and there was huge variety of flora and fauna. And the climate was much warmer there, and there were number of flora and fauna. Gondwana flourished for 500 million years, but around the time when the dinosaurs were wiped out and the age of the mammal progressed, this landmass was forced to separate into countries much as we know them today. So it survived this Gondwana, which is the one single landmass. It survived for 500 years, a million years. But the point of time when the dinosaurs started disappearing was the time when the human beings came on the timeline of this world. And then this world, this whole Gondwana, separated into different parts. You can see here jamming against Asia to buckle its crust and form the Himalayas. So it was something, in a molten state. It was in a molten state, and the land was pushed. And when it was pushed, it went up, it rose up, and it formed the Himalayas. For the sun worshipping South Indian like myself, 2 weeks in a place when 90% of the Earth's total ice volume are stored in chilling prospect, not just for circulatory and metabolic functions but also for the imagination. Now she comes from Chennai. Chennai is a very warm place, and spending time here, she found it very difficult to adjust to it. Visiting Antarctica reveals to us that history. It also makes known where we have come from and the direction in which we are moving. So it hides this Antarctica under the layers of snow and ice. It hides that where we have come from and where we are going. It helps us understand the cordial folds, Precambrian granite shields, ozone carbon evolution and extinction. So all that what we have read in our geography about the Precambrian granite shields, the ozone and the carbon and the evolution and the extinction, when we come to Antarctica, we get to know about a lot of these changes and the things happening. The very thought of India pushing towards and jamming against Asia, the thought of India pushing and jamming against Asia and forming the old mountains, the Himalayas, the South America drifting off to join North America, opening up the Drake Passage to create a circumpolar current, leaving Antarctica frigid, desolate, and the bottom of the world is awe-inspiring. Now what happened? What is she saying? That the mountains were formed there. The North Pole, the North America and the South America, they separated, and there was the Drake Passage, and Antarctica was left all alone, and that is why it became a very desolate and at the bottom of the world and awe-inspiring. Now we talk of, moreover, it was devoid of any indication of human life. There was no indication of human life there. It had no trees. No billboards, no buildings. Hence, one could lose all earthly sense of perception and time. So here, because there were no billboards, no buildings and all, so sense of time was not there, that what time you are, what is the time, and what morning, evening, whatever. However, the size of things range from the minutest to the loftiest, as they are tiny insects as well as blue whales and icebergs as big as countries. Now what she says, that here one can see the tiniest of the things here, and one can also see the largest, the big huge icebergs. In summers, the sun does not set for 6 months. For 6 months, the sun does not set there. And hence the days are never ending. And that is why keeping time becomes very difficult. Because for 6 months continuous, it is the daytime there. The place seems to be sanctified by an omnipresent silence. And there is silence. There are no noise of any human being, nor their creations, nor their factories, nor vehicles, nothing there. No aeroplanes, aircrafts, telephone ringing, nothing. It is absolutely a silent and the omnipresent. Omnipresent means everywhere the presence of silence. Since which is sometimes interrupted by the avalanche or the splitting of an ice sheet. And sometimes it is only that when an avalanche, a sheet of ice coming down into the sea, and it crashes into the water, and that makes the sound. Otherwise, there is no other sound that can be heard, no disturbance. It is an omnipresent silence. The captivating sight forces people to place themselves in the perspective of the Earth's geological history, but for human beings, the forecast isn't good. But the human beings, for humans, the prognosis means the forecast. It is not good. Why? Because the way we are spoiling everything, the environment, very soon this ice sheets, they will melt, the water level will rise, and many of the countries and places at the water coast, near the sea coast, will be drowned. So unless we don't change our habits, unless we don't check ourselves, what this Antarctica shows or tells, it's not good for human beings. Now, what is the human impact on Antarctica? Humans have existed for merely 12,000 years. We have just existed on this earth for 12,000 years. This time period is significant on the geological clock. Ironically, in this brief period, humans have destroyed nature by concretizing it. Now, what she says, that we have just come on this earth. This earth has existed for millions and millions of years, and we have just come for 12,000 years, human beings. And in this 12,000 years, we have destroyed nature by making everything of concrete. The rapidly increasing human population has left us battling with other species for limited resources. The way the human population is increasing, we are fighting with the other species, destroying the other species, cutting down trees, cutting down forests for the limited resources, because even they want it and we want it, and we are trying to show our superiority, and we are destroying everything else. The unlimited burning of fossil fuel has created a blanket of carbon dioxide that has increased the global temperature. Here she says that the burning of the fossil fuel has now created a blanket of carbon dioxide around the world, which is slowly but surely increasing the average global temperature. And this is causing the global warming. Because of the fossil fuel that we are using, it has created a blanket of carbon dioxide, and it has increased the heat around us. The increasing temperature has thrown up various concerns, such as it affects on the western Antarctica on the Gulf Stream ocean current. But Antarctica is a crucial element in this debate, not only because it has never had human population, but because it is 500,000 old carbon records trapped in its lair. Now, what the writer she says is here, that Antarctica is very crucial when we want to understand what was our past. Antarctica plays a very important role. Why? Because in it is trapped carbon footprints, and these carbon footprints can tell a lot about our past. The program Students on Ice. The program Students on Ice aims to take high school students to the end of the world and expose them to a place that would help them a new understanding and respect for our planet. This effort is headed by a Canadian adventure educator, Geoff Green. He has been leading these expeditions and adventures for the last 6 years now. Taking high school students, he feels, is more fruitful, as they are the future generation of policy makers and are ready to absorb, learn, and most importantly. Earlier, he used to take the rich and the celebrities to this Antarctica. But then he realized that these people, they had just come, the curiosity seekers, they had just come to take from Antarctica just for a single experience. Nothing worthwhile would come out of them. They could not give anything out of their visit to Antarctica. So he thought it's better to take school children, because these school children are still young, and what they have learned, what they have seen, the first hand experience of Antarctica, they will absorb it, learn it, and most importantly, act according to it. Because when they grow up, these are the people who are going to become the policy. These students are the ones who are going to become the policy makers of the life-changing experience at an age. So I end here, and the rest we'll do it in the next session. Thank you very much.